Hey Crossroads kids, it's Pastor Jordan here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about that God restores. But we've got a lot to cover. You see, last week we talked about Jonah. And this week we're trying to cover everything that happened from Jonah all the way until Jesus. It's a lot. So we're going to be here for a little while. Anyway, last week we saw that Jonah, what he did is he went all throughout Nineveh and he did something, didn't he? He went and he told people to stop. He said, stop. He said, stop. You say, stop, stop. He told them to stop their selfishness, to stop their violence, to stop treating people badly. And what's it say? It says everyone from the king all the way to the lowest servant decided to say sorry to God. They repented, and repentance is, instead of going this way, we talked about this before, instead of going this way, they decided to turn around and go God's way. This is what we learned about Jonah last week. Now, what goes on after Jonah? Well, there's a lot of things that are happening in this story from all the way to Jonah. So I'm going to tell you what ends up happening. We've got two things that are going on. Israel, the nation of Israel, is split into two kingdoms. Two kingdoms. There's a northern kingdom, north, and there's a southern kingdom, south. The northern kingdom is called Israel. Everyone say Israel. And the southern kingdom is called Judah. Now, there are all kinds of kings that go on in these kingdoms. After we learned about, is it David with a whole heart? Then we learned about Saul who had no heart. And we learned about Solomon who had a half a heart, right? After those guys came, there were all these kings. You know how, so there were 19 kings and 20 kings. There's 19 kings in the northern kingdom. 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right, tons of kings. 19 kings in the northern kingdom in Israel. Guess how many of them followed God? Guess. You think 5, 6, 7, all 19? Out of the 19 kings, guess how few followed God? 0. None of them. Bucket's empty. None of those kings followed God. In the southern kingdom in Judah, we had 20 kings. 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 20. We had 20 kings in the southern kingdom. Guess how many kings do you think followed God from the southern kingdom from Judah? Well, you know how many there were? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 kings out of 20 decided to follow God. And so what ended up happening with all of these kings, there's only 8 who decided to follow God. And you know, one of those kings, his name was Josiah. You know how old he was? 8 years old. He was 8. And he told the whole nation, all of Judah, he said, we are going to turn around and we are going to stop following idols, stop doing all kinds of things, and we're going to turn and we're going to follow God. But for the rest of the kings, for many of the rest of the kings, they did not follow God. And so God sent these prophets. And they're all in the later part of the Bible. You hear about these prophets. You got guys like Isaiah. You got different prophets. You got all those prophets. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel. They're all over the place through here. And these prophets came and they came to the people and they said, stop. Over and over again, the kings had said, stop. No, stop. No, stop. And they kept telling the kings to stop doing their own thing and to follow God. But the problem was nobody listened. And God kept sending these prophets and they keep saying, stop. Stop your violence. Stop your selfishness. Stop hurting the poor. Stop worshiping idols. And you say, stop, stop. But nobody listened. And so finally God said, if you're not going to listen to me, how can I help you? And so what happened is this prophet said, stop. If you don't change, God's going to sell you into slavery. You're going to be taken over by other nations. And so then these nations came in, and the nation of Assyria came in, and they came in And they took all of the Israelites away to Assyria. And then the nation of Babylon came in and took them all away. And for 70 years, some of you are 7. That's like older than your grandparents. For 70 years, Israel and Judah, these two nations, they were slaves in other countries. They lived in other countries. And it was sad. And they cried out to God. And they didn't know what to do. And life was tough because they had lost everything. Lost everything. But then one of the prophets said, God came and used one of the prophets called Jeremiah. And he said, hey, stop. Yes, he spoke for God. He said, stop. Yeah, we've screwed up. Things have gone wrong. But you know what? God is gracious and compassionate. He is slow to anger and abounding in love and faithfulness. And God raised up some people named Nehemiah, named Ezra, named Zerubbabel, to bring the people back from the land of Persia to rebuild the temple and to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And the people actually came back. You know, in Ezekiel, it actually talks about this, that God said, I will bring my people back out of this slavery that they're in. And you know what I will begin to do is I will give them a new heart. I will remove this heart of stone, and I'll give them a soft heart, an undivided heart to follow me. See, God, in the end, he restores Israel because he loved them, and he brought them back, and he cared for them. God restores. So you remember that. No matter how far off you get, no matter if someone's told you to stop a lot of times and you've made some bad decisions and you've been really selfish, God invites you and God comes to us and God can actually restore and make it right again. Thanks, Crossroads Kids.